What have I got to attach this to? Everyone fucking attaches their microphones to shit these days, don't they? Mojo Dojo Casa House. That? There you go. Right. Hi, my name is Natasha. I'm a medical herbalist. I'm the founder of Forage Botanicals, a multi-award-winning product range for women's health, and the author of Your Period Handbook. I can't remember what it was called then. I recently lectured over at Lincoln College, which is the most recent iteration of the course that I was taught herbal medicine at, 3-year full-time degree program that they have there. And they asked me to come and talk about my must-have herbs for women's health. And it was one of those experiences that I haven't had since being a student, where I wrote my entire thing and I was like, yeah, these are my must-have herbs. And I got all the way to the conclusion, wrote the conclusion page, and I was like, oh, that's what all of the rest of it should be about. And as I go loop back round and change everything, you know when you like don't realize what the overall theme is until you've written it, and then you're like, oh, that's a theme. Oh, I should probably mention that that's what the theme is earlier on. So it turns out the theme when it comes to must-have herbal remedies for me is that I have been looking for and proving to myself a hypothesis that I came up with probably while I was still at uni, that you don't have to treat a woman's hormones to improve a woman's hormones. And that hypothesis started because what I was seeing in my research and in the medical textbooks a lot of the time was hormonal explanations for problems that actually weren't hormonal. And I'll give you a few examples. So the first thing that I deep dove into was PMS. So PMS is premenstrual tension syndrome or premenstrual syndrome. And it's essentially a collection of symptoms, like you might feel tense, anxious, like upset. Your emotions might change in the week before you have your period. Your energy might change. There's like literally hundreds of symptoms, to the point where everybody probably has experienced something like PMS at some point in their lives, even if they don't have periods. Like the symptoms are quite general, really. And nobody knows what the hormonal cause is, aside from it's the week before your period. But no one has figured out why some people get it and some people don't, even though there's a whole bunch of people who are having periods. So there's a brilliant TED talk about this, and that's why I don't talk about it very much myself, where the speaker, whose name escapes me, talks about how no one's ever found one hormone that's the problem, what's out of kilter. There's no hormonal treatment that you can do for PMS, aside from like giving people the pill and just switching off this phase altogether. So what we kind of come to realize is that it's a syndrome, it's a collection of symptoms, and it's not really, like, although hormonal changes through the month are a trigger, is it really the cause? And what I found in my practice is that when I support people's stress response and other environmental factors, perhaps even in their diet, we can get rid of PMS altogether. And I didn't have to even touch their hormones. The second thing that I have done a lot of research around is perimenopause. So perimenopause currently has the definition that perimenopause is caused by an estrogen deficiency. And lots of people buy into this narrative that it's because I don't have enough estrogen and therefore I must supplement my estrogen. But every female person will go through that change at some point in their life if they're lucky enough to live so long. but not everybody will suffer in the same way. And if you read it, there's this brilliant book called Blood Magic, which looks at the anthropology of perimenopause, and it looks at how different people experience it in totally different ways, and different subcategories of people. So different races, different classes, different geography, different cultures experience it completely differently. And one of the biggest running comparisons studies is between how the Japanese go through perimenopause versus your typical Westerner, like someone in the US. In Japan, when they reach perimenopause, it is a venerated time of life. It is a time of life that people are looked up to and respected. There is a place for elders within their culture and community, which we don't have here in the UK. In the UK, you're past your best. You're past your utility. The purpose of a woman is to be beautiful, sexual, have babies. You're done. That is not the case. That is not the case in Japan. And so their experience of it is totally different. They don't even have a word for perimenopause. They don't have words for hot flushes. And interestingly, when you study a hot flush or perimenopause even, if you include hot flushes in the list of things that people experience, then obviously people will tick it. And it becomes like a self-fulfilling thing where if you hint at it, then people will talk about it. If you don't hint at it at all, it rarely comes up. And is that because there's no words for it within that culture? Or is it because you experience it less because you're not naming it so much? The studies in Blood Magic would go to show that when you live in places where there is no culture of hot flushing and perimenopause, people genuinely experience it less, which I think is fascinating. So my understanding of perimenopause is being that people will experience it differently depending on lots of different things, and a lot of that is environmental, not hormonal. And to constantly place the blame at women's feet and be like, well, you just need to take more estrogen, allows us as a society to completely ignore and paste over so many inequities in so many different places in our society, and just give this drug as like a plaster over a leaking roof, like it's going to solve everything. And it makes the people who take it feel great in the most part. But did it just mean that they were able to exist in a society that wasn't built for them? And then the last area, which I think is really pertinent when it comes to hormones not actually being the cause of female health problems, is endometriosis. We're now starting to understand that it's a whole body problem, that it's an inflammatory condition, that although estrogen seems to drive it and feed it, it is not the only reason that it happens. And they've had some really interesting breakthroughs where it may be that a bacteria starts off endometriosis. There's also another running hypothesis that the digestion is really crucial in endometriosis, such as small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and gut dysbiosis and dysregulation of the gut microbiome. And those things may be far more important than trying to alter someone's hormones in endometriosis. Interestingly, for people who do opt for going into early perimenopause in order to treat their endo, because it switches off the estrogen in the body, it only works in 50 to 80% of people, which I found really surprising. I thought it would work 100% of the time. But no, 80% isn't bad, is it? But yeah, if you're in the 20% and you switched off your hormones and were told that it was going to make you feel better, then you feel pretty shitty about that probably. So yeah, all sorts of surprise. So there's 3 big examples for me where, although the problem seems to be hormonal, PMS, endometriosis, perimenopause, I have treated all of those things without specifically tinkering with hormones and seen people get better. And I'm seeing that repeatedly. And I think that really what the underlying thing is for most people is if you deal with people's digestion and their nervous system, then you're dealing higher up in the hierarchy of the hormones and how they're produced, and you can make things better before it even gets to the reproductive portion of the hormones being created. So yeah, it was a really big breakthrough for me to realize that I have actually been researching the same thing all this time, but not really realizing it, which has been nice. And now I'm like, ooh, is that a second book? I don't know. No one will pay me for it. But maybe I'll talk a bit more about it, and I'll probably start to write some lectures about it and see where that takes me, because clearly I've done the research, but I've never really written it all out, I guess. Anyhow, that's my thoughts. I'm probably going to really piss people off by saying it's not your hormones. After having so many people being told it's all in your head for so long, it's really easy to be like, but hormones was the thing that made me feel legitimized. I'm like, well, it's more complicated than that. Hormones is like the end of a very complicated situation, isn't it? And I would like to see health departments thinking about inequities in society as much as they are plying everybody with estrogen.